Hello, folks. This is Andrew Gilmore with another episode of Mostly Movies, Maybe Music. And it's been a while since I've done this. I had some things to take care of. I've been working and had things in my personal life I had to deal with. And then just when I was getting ready to do this again, I got a cold. I was sick for a week, so there's been a lot going on. But I'm here today, and I have a good guest. And as it turns out, I have two guests. I wasn't expecting two, but Charlie Judkins, who was here before with his wife, is sitting in. But the main guest today is my friend Nelson Hughes, who I've known for maybe 25 years or so. And Nelson is a film historian. And by the way, if you want to play a drinking game with my show, you can watch a bunch of my shows and take a drink every time the guest is a film historian. I think that'll, well, then you might pass out and you might not be able to watch this show, so maybe don't do that. But Nelson is a film historian and researcher and collector, and curates a film program in New York called That Slapstick Show, among other accomplishments, and we'll talk about that. And I'm not really sure what we're going to talk about. This is kind of a little looser than my other shows. I don't have as many prepared questions, but Nelson has been very supportive of this show and wanted to come on, so I think we're just going to wing it today and see what happens. And as it turns out, Charlie is with us as well. So I've got two cool guys to hang out with today. So, guys, thank you for being here. It's good to have you here.
Oh, well, you know.
Yeah. So, Nelson, I guess my first question is, what do you think of Fred Allen?
Oh, I love Fred Allen. I'm a big Fred Allen fan. You know
Yeah,
that.
that's that's an inside joke, viewers, if you didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. I know what that
Yeah.
meant.
Well, do you listen to a lot of old radio? Is that a thing for you in addition to old movies?
As a kid, I used to listen to a lot of old radio. I mean, I remember because a lot of people might not know this, but I'm originally from Florida. I lived there for 14 years, and I remember one of the local radio stations, like in the early 70s, they used to play classic radio. One Sunday night, we would hear Amos and Andy, and then the next following Sunday would be the Green Hornet. But nowadays, I haven't really heard much of radio, classic radio, but I still love it to this day. I mean, I might listen to some stuff on YouTube and everything because you can find it basically almost anything on YouTube.
Yeah. I still I have a lot of shows on my iPod, and I listen
Mhm.
to Jack Benny every night before I go to sleep. So
That's a good
it's
choice.
still very much a part of my life. And as you know, I'm a radio writer and performer myself, so that's something that's had an influence on me. So I'm always happy to talk to people who speak the same language, as you know. This is our
Big,
tribe.
we're one big happy family.
Yeah, well, maybe not so happy all the time, but we're a family.
Yeah, everybody has their ups and downs, you know.
Yeah,
What do I have uh, characters that I've dealt with in the past that, I just look the other way and keep a straight face.
yeah,
But majority, it's nothing but love with all the good people in the film community and the music community for that matters as well.
yeah, yeah. I guess you saw my interview with Samantha Glasser, right?
Oh yeah, that was the very first one. I'm actually looking forward to seeing Samantha. Samantha, hi.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing her, you, and everybody else at Capitol Fest this year. I'm really looking my first trip back in 6 years.
Oh wow, has it been that long?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, with COVID, and then I had some. For some of you who may not know, I had some recent health issues over the last few years.
yeah.
Suffered a heart attack.
Oh God.
No, 2 years ago, I almost died, and I'm starting to feel much better. I just got positive review from my cardiologist that my heart is getting better, stronger. So for anybody that's watching this, I really wanted to take the time out to thank everybody for the love and support that for the last 2 years that I've been going through. It means the world to me. Thanks to everybody on that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're doing better. You're a good
Thank
guy,
you.
and you deserve that.
Thank you.
But I was just going to say that Samantha, when she was here, was talking about finding her tribe and finding the family, and so I'm glad that somehow I guess well, mostly through Facebook we all find each other. So
Yeah,
here we
that's
are.
cool. You and I go way back to the old termite terrace trading post.
Yeah. I
Back
meant
in the
to. I
2000s. That's how I met Matthew, Thad, Tommy, David Gerstein. I mean, you name it. I met everybody through that website. And
yeah
then
I've
it reached out to like classic film and everything, silent comedies, you name it. Yeah.
yeah I
Everything.
forgot to mention that in my introduction because I usually tell the viewers how I met my guests. And yeah, there was the Termite Terrace Trading Post was a message board in the old days about Warner Brothers cartoons, and that was how we met through our mutual interest in cartoons. So we've known each other way, way back. I guess I was 13 or 14 when we first started talking.
I was in my early 30s when I joined the group.
Oh God, I can remember. I never posted on that group, but I used to read it constantly. I used to, creep on it because there's always good discussions going on there. Yeah, I was probably real young. I might have even been in middle school or high school.
Well, it's funny because I think when you had Matthew Hunter on your show not too long ago, you were discussing about the Speedy Gonzalez. I think you were briefly talking about the Speedy Gonzalez controversy with Cartoon Network, and it was because of Matthew that he somehow managed to get me on WOR Channel 9. They did a story about the Speedy Gonzalez situation. And I don't know how it all happened, but I know Matt played a role in getting that interview for me.
Hmm.
And the thing was that they were at my house for like about almost an hour and a half. And in the actual clip, which I'm still trying to find, it's like I'm only in it for like maybe 11 seconds or something like that. And the interview was like almost an hour and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was fun. That was like my actual introduction into what I love doing, So, but we'll get to that a little bit more later.
Yeah, well, we're all over the place, but why don't I just go back to the beginning? How did you get into old cartoons and old movies and all that?
Okay, well, we go back to that. Well, in terms of like live action movies, my grandmother was a silent film accompanist right
Oh,
after Spanish influenza.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and
You told me
in Pennsylvania,
that. Wow.
oh,
Philadelphia, little small theater,
Did she play piano or organ or both?
piano.
Ah,
And
wow.
I think there was maybe a couple times where she played the organ as well.
Well,
She was a teenager, and you know, uh, my grandmother's the main reason why I love silent films.
uh-huh.
I mean, how many kids do you know growing up in the 70s at like 7 or 8 years old who knows who Clara Bow, Douglas Fairbanks, Zazu Pitts, Lillian Gish? You don't find many of those. But my grandmother really told me everything she knew about, movies, what it was like going to the movies in the 1910s, 1920s. There was a story after my grandmother passed away that my mother once said to me, she goes, your grandmother never liked talking pictures. And I would go, why? And she said, well, because, she was out of a job.
Right.
We don't need a live musical accompaniment anymore. And I did, knowing my grandmother, I wouldn't be surprised if she said that. She goes, I hate talkies. But yeah, I mean, cartoons, basically the same thing. I remember when I lived in Florida, there was a place called Shakey's Pizzeria.
oh
And,
sure.
and we would go like every Friday night, and they would actually show 60 millimeter films. Like 1 minute you'd see a Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle comedy, followed by a Daffy Duck cartoon. And that's where I got first time I ever saw Terry Tunes. Uh, Walter Lance. So that's my introduction to animation. And then, of course, the local station in Tampa, Channel 44 WTOG, would always show like blocks of Tom and Jerry, Woody Woodpecker. And I just became so like drawn to the animation style that I actually studied to become an animator.
Oh,
But I dropped out because I became more fascinated with the history of
right.
how they were made. I mean, it's like to this day, if you ask me who's my favorite animator of all time, it's probably going to be either by works of Bill Nolan,
Hmm.
you know, and of course,
Pieces.
New York City is like rich with film history,
Right.
But yeah, that's how I basically got into those. I mean, I love the talkies, but yeah, I'm more. I mean, I love movies in general. I mean, I could watch Barbara Stanwyck and Babyface, and then follow it up by watching the latest Terrifier film.
Right.
That's how much I just love films in general. But if I had to choose, I would say the classics any day.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess for me, I kind of, well, I'm all over the place, but I kind of cut it off around World War II, I think. That's kind of the sweet spot for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say my favorite period is like from 1910s to like 1930s.
Yeah.
You know, during the pre-code era. I mean, yeah, it's such great stuff. I mean, I do like movies from the 40s.
Yeah.
Mostly like Casablanca and that. One of my favorite movies from the 40s is The Fighting Sullivans, which was based on the true story of the Sullivan brothers, who all lost their lives in World War II. It's a great film. If you could see it, check it out. Highly
Yeah.
recommend it.
I've
Mhm.
heard the title, but I haven't seen it, so I'll have to put that
It's
on my
really good.
list. So I guess you know from my Facebook post that I'm teaching a course on silent films now, and I've had some resistance to that. It turns out some people don't care for silent films and that kind of thing, so there's some prejudice there. So, what kind of reaction do you get when you talk to people about silent film?
Well, I will even take it one step further. When I do the slapstick show, sometimes if I feel I like to throw in a clunker every now and then. And I will, and sometimes I'll actually address the audience by saying, you know what, this one might not be good, but we're still going to show it anyway.
Right.
And I'll never forget one show that we did. It was, I think it was the fifth anniversary show we did at QED.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was a gentleman uh, in attendance. So after the end of the show, he came up to me and he goes, you know, those some of those films that you showed were pure crap, but those Universal comedies were really good. You know, but yeah, I mean, everybody's going to have their opinion on films in general. It's like, oh yeah, I like silent comedies or silent films in general, and others are going to be like, meh.
Yeah, you can't please everybody all the time.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's
Right.
going to nitpick about something. I'm sure you see it online all the time. Just go on Facebook, you're going to see somebody bitching and complaining about some kind of a release. Well, why isn't there any like bonus material? Why isn't there? It's like just enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's my.
Yeah, I was just talking about my class. It was really a surprise to me that, some people just don't understand why silent films are important because I've done other courses on silent films in the past and I never had any complaints. And then suddenly this year I say I'm doing silent films and I get that crap. Oh, silent films are boring. Who cares about that? So I was
Right
really,
here so long.
yeah, I was really shocked that some people who I thought were intelligent people would give that reaction. But
I
I,
mean, just look at some of the popular films of the 20s. Anything that King Vidor did was like gold. I mean, one of my favorite films to come out of the 20s was von Stroheim's Greed.
yes,
I mean, that's a masterpiece. And if I was to introduce anybody to a silent film, I think Greed would be that film.
well, that might
It,
scare them away, I would think.
huh?
That might scare them away, I would think. That's pretty intense for a beginner.
It is, but it's really, I mean, the cinematography is really good on that. And I can only imagine if the 9 hour version existed, which I know it doesn't, but that I would also let somebody see like The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, Rudolph Valentino.
Hmm.
That's a really good film. I remember seeing that at Film Forum back in '97. And the funny thing was, it was sold out. My friend and I went, and it was mostly women.
Hmm.
There was like a few guys to see the film, but it was like, and I was just like, my God, it's like Valentino's been dead for what, like 70 years, and this guy still has like an impact on female moviegoers. It's like
Yeah,
it's amazing. But that just tells you how a lot of people I've come across love silent films.
yeah. Well, of course, in our circle of friends they do, but then I'm just talking about responses from people and the people out there in the real world who don't know what they're talking about.
Well, if they don't like silent films, then I personally think they don't like classic films. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, my ex girlfriend loved silent films. She preferred silent films more than talkies.
Hmm.
She had a good sense of filmmaking and everything like that, and she respected the industry a lot. I mean, she wasn't like a knowledge person on film like I am, or Charlie, or you for that matter, but she appreciated it. I mean, yeah, I might come across a couple of people that don't like it, but like I said, to each his own. Everybody's got their own taste.
Yeah. So I guess while we're on that subject, how did you start doing that slapstick show?
The slapstick show is, I would say, is a spinoff of the cartoon carnival that Tommy hosts.
Hmm.
I've always been a big fan of the Silent Clown shows, screenings here that Ben and Steve host. And I've always wanted to do my own series. And thanks to Tommy, I was able to get that chance 10, 11 years ago. And I remember it was at the City Relic where it was an outdoor screening. We had a big turnout. And the thing that blew me away was that we had a lot of young people in the audience, and they left that night saying, I've never seen funny stuff like this before. Where'd you get this stuff? And I said, well, I should tell your audience, like, well, normally the slapstick show, we try to do things a little bit different. What we do is that we try to present films that fans don't get a chance to see.
Right.
I mean, we might slip in a Harold Lloyd or a Charlie Chaplin film every now and then. But as a whole, our film series has been based with the generous support of like the film archives, most notably at Library of Congress, who Rob Stone and George Willerman have been very, very helpful for me trying to track down some stuff that might have been presumed lost. And of course, we also have done screenings with a collection of films from collectors,
Yeah.
most notably Ralph Celentano, the late,
Mm.
dear friend of mine who passed away recently.
Yes.
But like I said, we try to give the fans what they want. As Steve Massa once said that, if you don't have access to a film archive and a certain silent film might survive, then it's impossible to see. So that's my job is to try to bring those films out so everybody can enjoy them for the first time. And
Right.
we've succeeded. We are now in our 11th season, and we got a big show coming up next month that I'll discuss later. And Charlie's been with us for 10 years now.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe. It feels like just yesterday I started doing them.
Well, Charlie's involvement came when he was doing a couple of shows for Tommy. And, I should also make mention that Charlie also does the music for the Cartoon Carnivals.
Sure.
And I was so blown away by his playing. It's like, I have to have you play my shows because I was getting tired of like having to do like, just add like 1920 soundtracks to the films because it was like hard. You got to like, but with Charlie, he's so good that he doesn't even have to see the film. When he watches it projected, he can just like nail it.
Well, I should say thank you, Nelson. That means a lot to me to say that. I should thank you because, in my perspective, you gave me an incredible opportunity to really learn on the job how to do silent film
Yeah.
accompaniment. Because when you started to hire me to do these things, I had never really done them before. I grew up being obsessed with cartoon music and early sound film music and what were the typical pieces that were
Yeah.
used and how the pieces would change to fit the moods and things like that. And growing up in the city, I had seen some. I'd been to movies at Film Forum, and I don't know which pianist I would have seen, but I'd seen it done live. And when I was at Pratt, I was in Elena Rossi Snook's class, and she would bring Ben Modell in to play for the class. So
Yeah.
I got to watch what Ben was doing a few times, and take some inspiration from him as well.
Mm-hmm.
But really, when I started to do the accompaniments for you and Tommy, I really didn't know what I was doing yet. I had some pieces that would work, and over the past 10 years of doing it, I've learned a lot about just how to do it on the fly and the certain tricks. To suddenly change what you're playing to match a very sudden
Yeah.
change in scene and things like that, and just typical. Silent films are interesting. They tend to have they always have a wedding in them. They
Mm-hmm.
always have a chase in them. They always have a romantic scene in them. There's always some scene with cars or a scene with horses or there's just typical motifs you'll see over and over again. And you really like other people will ask me like, "Hey, I got to play for a silent movie. What do you do?" And I just say, "Well, there's some of these typical kinds of scenes that show up over and over again, and you just got to be, have the wedding march prepared, have like some car songs prepared. And these are things I've learned from, you giving me the experience and the, investing in hiring me, when I was very inexperienced and basically learning to do it on the job over the past 10 years. And I think I've figured out a lot of tricks. I also play more photo play music, I would say now than I did when I started. There's a lot of, Daniel Goldmark did a really great anthology reprinting a lot of the Sam Fox, Zemenek photoplay music folios, and I've memorized more of that than I did when I was younger too. So I'll try to use more of that kind of stuff more often when I do Nelson or Tommy shows nowadays. And so anyway, I should just thank you for having me
Pleasure.
on
Hey,
board because it's you really gave me my start,
well,
and it's been a great experience learning to do this by basically trial by fire, learning on the job over the past 10 years or so.
well, I will go on record for saying this that I think, and I want your audience to know this firsthand that look out for Charlie. I think he's personally, in my own humble opinion, that he's one of the most exciting and up and coming silent film composers coming out there. So just watch. I mean, his music can be heard on Blu-ray releases. His music has recently been heard on Turner Classic Movies, and I just see a really bright future for Charlie.
Yeah.
in this other side of the business.
Well, I hope so because I love to play for silent
You
films.
know, I mean, the other thing about doing music, and Charlie's really great at this, is like in silent comedy, there's constant changes.
Right,
It's like
right,
because you have to play and basically, you have to keep up the pace of the action.
right.
Whereas if you're playing like a dramatic film, it's not like there's changes, but not like at a rapid succession. Silent comedy, it's like, and you got to be on point. And Charlie just I don't know how he does it, but it's just mind boggling. It's incredible. And the best thing about that is that I get people come up to me and say, "Boy, I really love Charlie's performance. I hope to hear more of his music." And yeah, it's really great. It's a good feeling, and that's like my reward. When I get some positive feedback. I rarely ever get bad feedback on anything I do with this film series, but it makes me feel good that people really love Charlie's playing.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of
Yeah. Well, I don't think you guys need me as a host. You guys can just go and I'll sit here and listen.
him. No, ask away, ask away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I guess I was going to ask you about Tommy because you've been mentioning him, and we should clarify for the audience because some people out there might not know who he is. We're talking about Tommy Stathis, who is another film historian who's how old is he now? Because he's around my age.
Tommy's what, 33? No, 34 or 35, I think.
Yeah, he's a year or two older than I am,
Yeah.
somewhere around.
Yeah, so around our age, and he specializes in silent cartoons and does shows in New York as Nelson does, showing cartoons to people. And I was going to ask you because I know you mentioned that you met Tommy through the message boards in the old days, but then how did you start hanging out in person?
Well, I first met Tommy in person when our friend Jerry Beck was doing a retro at the Museum of Modern Art. I think this was like around 2004, 2005.
Wow.
And, I met Tommy and his mother and everything, and David Gerstein was there. And that's when I actually also got to get to know Jerry Beck personally. And over the years, he and I have become really good friends. Respect the guy a lot and everything. But Tommy had an ambition when I first met him. And about 4 years later, that's when he started the Cartoon Carnival back in 2009. And it's been a popular film series ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
right. I think I first met Tommy right around that same time, and it was really a great experience to meet him because, well, I mean, people nowadays, I think it's a lot easier to see obscure media, silent films, among other things, than it was even just 20 years ago. I can remember when I was again, this is around the same time, probably around 2003 or four or five. I can remember I had a copy of Leslie Cabarga's The Fleischer Story, and
yes,
it had a lot of images from Bray cartoons, things like Colonel He's a Liar and The Police Dog. And I just thought, wow, I would love to see this stuff. And there was just no way to see it. And I searched and searched, and finally I found a kid named Tommy Stathis, who I assumed was probably an older guy, selling, homemade VHS tapes and things like that on, I think, an old GeoCities website of these characters. And it just blew my mind. I can finally see this stuff now. So
yeah,
naturally I started to buy them. And I found out actually we had a mutual friend, a guy named Mark Newgarden, who's a great guy. And me and Tommy wound up connecting in person because of that.
Yeah.
And, right away, Tommy wasn't doing we were both still in high school. Tommy wasn't doing his live shows yet, but he already had an ambition to start doing that. And I was learning to play ragtime, and I played for Tommy at my parents' house, and I remember him saying, "Oh, well, when I get my shows going, we should get you to play for these," And I also helped Tommy get set up with his first show ever was at a place called Goodbye Blue Monday in Bushwick. Were you at that one?
It was like
Would have been
it
around
was a bar, and
2009.
there was like a garage in the back of the bar. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was one of those great old Bushwick type art spaces,
Yeah.
long gone now, of course. And luckily Tommy found some pretty nice venues over the years. Some aren't around anymore, some still are. And
Basically, Tommy's film series outlived most of the venues that.
Right. That's a classic New York thing. Sadly, it's this, and it's the same thing in me and my wife's line of work. Where we play, lots of dates, a month to make our living in all kinds of clubs and venues. And yeah, they're constantly coming and going. So anybody that's doing live performance in New York very,
I mean, I
old
almost
story.
lost my venue that I've been doing my shows for the last 6 years. It's called QED. It's a comedy club venue for the arts, and for the arts and everything. And apparently, they were going to shut down earlier in the year. But thank God that the woman bought it, saved it, and she kept it the same venue. So, I mean, when you lose a venue in New York City, it's very, very hard to find, you know, another venue. I mean, one
Mm.
venue we did that we had, it's like we lost an audience because they didn't want to pay a 2 drink minimum. It's like, well, I definitely would love to come to your show, but I'm sorry, I don't drink, but I'm not paying, you know, 2 drinks for that. So yeah, that kind of hurt me as well. But it's getting harder and harder to find venues in New York City, whether it doesn't matter if it's Manhattan or any of the boroughs. So I'm just, and Tommy's been doing, he does various theme shows, like the one that's coming up this upcoming Sunday. It's at a place called Flat. It's over in Bushwick, Brooklyn. And then he might be doing another show at a venue called Metrograph or the Roxy. And like with the slapstick show, we've been able to. My goal was to put the slapstick show on the road. Maybe come down to your area and do some
Yeah.
shows. I mean, I can say, and I'm very proud that two of our biggest shows we ever done was we played at the National Arts Club here in the city. We did a Laurel and Hardy screening, and I wanted Charlie to play, even though there were talkies, but I wanted him to play. And he was on the panel with us. And we also did last year, we played at the exclusive Lambs Club, where we did a Marx Brothers animated program, which really, really was fun to do. And it's like I'm always looking for better spots for Tommy and everything like that. And but yeah, it's like I said, the New York City in terms of venues, it's drying up considerably. I mean, so many great places that Tommy would do his shows are just no longer around anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of, I'm lucky that I have my one little thing in Philadelphia that I can do because I'm teaching from home. But then I think if I were trying to go out somewhere and show films in public spaces in Philadelphia, I'm not sure if there are a lot of places I could do that here either.
Mhm.
So it's tough.
Well, the other tough thing is like when you are doing a show. I mean, we're like the Cartoon Carnival, we're very very a small organization. We're not like the Silent Clowns or Cinefest or whatever it is. We make do, and the biggest gamble I would say is like, well, turnout. Are you going to have a good turnout? I mean, I've done shows where we've had sold out crowds. I've done shows where it's probably you could hear a mouse fart.
Mm.
And it's not your fault too,
No,
because in New York you get thrown a lot of curveballs. The subway is often on a random schedule. I know Nelson has had situations where he'll have a show on a night and it turns out, oh, the N train is not running between Queens and Manhattan that weekend. They
welcome to New
announced.
York.
And then I remember one you did last year where not only were all the subways down that weekend, but it was also like a torrential downpour,
Yeah,
like a
that's
major
right.
rain. So not only were the subways not running, but you had to like basically could only drive there with a very large umbrella and a raincoat to get to the show. And I remember riding the bus and walking through the rain to get there and try to get all dressed up in full ragtime outfit with
And
the striped sugar coater and
we
everything.
spent the earlier part of the day at the MoMA, if you remember. And then we had to zoom back to Queens. At least they gave us they treated us to the bar. Yeah, I mean, they couldn't pay us, so they said, "Well, have
So it's a kind of pay.
It was yeah,
It's a kind
not
of
bad."
I'll take what I can get. They always at Ruby Lot. They always give me free hot dogs. I always appreciate that.
Yes, yeah, they take good
Definitely
care of
helps.
us there.
Oh yeah, we've been lucky to have some very nice venues over the
Mm-hmm.
years, and a lot of ones that I wish were still around. And
Standard toy craft.
that was an interesting one we were just talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
although I don't miss there's a place, Standard Toycraft. We used to do the show. Actually, I think those were the first shows I ever did for you, right?
Yeah, you started performing for Tommy first at the Standard
Yeah,
Toy Craft, and then you followed suit and
doing your
started
shows
doing my
there.
shows there.
That's right. And there was a fun space, but it was like a 5-story walk up, which was pretty funny. And of course, a lot of these venues do not have pianos, so I would have to lug an electric keyboard and a heavy, iron stand up five flights of stairs,
Wow.
Yeah.
back and forth. And in those days, I would have a few beers when I played too. So at the end of the night, I'd have a couple beers in my stomach, and I'd be lugging a keyboard and a giant iron stand down five flights of stairs, which is never fun, but it's always worth it to get to
That's,
play one of the shows.
that sounds like a scene from a W.C. Fields movie or something.
That's the funny thing is a lot of times these silent comedy shows, they wind up, the themes of them wind up reflecting in our own lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, you know,
Ah, well, an unexpected silence there. You guys caught me off guard.
Oh, next question.
Huh? I didn't hear that.
Next question.
Ah, well, where else can I go? I'm not sure. We're kind of all over the place. Um, well, this is kind of a cliche question, but if I asked you maybe your top five silent films?
That's a toughie. Okay, I would say, and this is in no particular order, Wings, uh, Wings, Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse,
Hmm.
The Big Parade,
Yeah,
and I would also probably say It. Is that four or five?
that's four.
Uh, um, I've also been. I would actually throw a Fool There Was because I'm a big Theta Barrow fan.
Well, it's
It's sad
interesting.
that's probably the only complete film of hers that survives.
Right. That's interesting that four of them are dramas there.
Yeah,
And yet I think if you were such a comedy guy and yet you're four out of five are
yeah.
dramas.
I mean, well, I don't like. It's really hard because I don't like to put comedy mixing with dramas. I mean, now if you're saying like comedy films, I would probably obviously I would say The Circus, Charlie Chaplin.
Yes.
Watching out here, that's a masterpiece. That's actually my favorite Chaplin feature of all time. It's just such a great film. Buster Keaton, I would say Sherlock Jr.
Of course.
Uh, let's see, Brother Roscoe. I would probably say Leap Year is my favorite of his features, and not many survive, but there's some that do survive, like The Rounders. That's another good one. More like a dramatic film with a little comedic approach by him. It's a really good film. And of course, you got Harold Lloyd. I mean, it's like Safety Last, Freshman, Speedy. I would probably say Speedy would be my favorite Harold Lloyd film, comedy film that is. I mean, just the nostalgia at New York City, uh,
Right.
on the island in the late 20s. It's like when you watch Speedy, it's like you just wish you could travel back and get in the time machine and go back to 1927 when he was filming it in New York City. But that's I would say some of my favorite comedy films.
Yeah, I was going to say The Kid Brother is my favorite Lloyd.
That's a great
Yeah,
film.
I love that film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no place there.
Yeah. So, well, I guess I should bring up Clara Bow too, because two of your top five there were Clara's films, and actually, I just watched Wings again this morning. So, how did you first see Clara?
I first learned about Claire through my grandmother. And I remember I was like about 11 years old and I saw it for the first time at a local public library when I was a kid. And I was just so memorized by her.
Hmm.
I mean, you look at all the sex film goddesses of all time, but there's something about Claire that she stands out above the rest of them.
Yes.
I can't explain it, but it's like any film you see her in, you just instantly fall in love with her.
Yes.
I mean, she's just her presence is like it's memorizing. And when people like discuss about her involvement with talking pictures, I mean, number one, you don't even hear a Brooklyn accent with her,
No.
and she does a wonderful job in talking pictures. My favorite is Hoopla, for
Yeah.
a very nice film. I would hope that David Sten was telling me that he's working on getting that, or he's trying to get that out on Blu-ray. So we'll see what happens with that. This past December they just did a Clara Bow Festival at the Film Forum,
Hmm.
and I was able to, due to my schedule, I was only able to watch two of her films, The Lady of Whims and Kid Boots, and the restorations on those two films were gorgeous. I don't think I've ever seen Clara look that good before on the big screen.
Hmm.
And the other thing about those two shows that I went to, I noticed there was a lot of young people in the audience. And that, to me, anytime I see a young person at a silent film screening, that just brings a smile on my face because you know what? Who said that a young person in their 20s can't enjoy a silent film?
Yeah.
And so I think they just, Film Preservation Society just put out two of Claire's films on Blu-ray, Kid Boots, and I forgot the other one with Charles Buddy Rogers. Got the
Yeah,
name of it. I
I'm
remember
blanking
seeing
on it
it
too.
last year at the Sonic Clown Show, but that's another good one.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Alice White.
Yes.
I know you are as well.
Yeah.
Uh, my favorite actor of all time from the silent era was like Lon Chaney.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was incredible.
Yeah.
Some of
Absolutely.
my favorite directors from the silent era: John Ford, D.W. Griffith, King Vidor. Who else? Rex Ingram, in my opinion, is a very underrated director. I don't think he gets enough credit for the films that he did, especially uh, Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. That is an incredible film. And there's so many hidden gems in silent film that people are going to discover this, that, and the other thing, you know, to come. I mean, there's so much good stuff that does survive out there. And it's just
Yeah.
as a film, see, I consider myself a film fan first, and but it's really great to hear stuff like, oh, like I think it was last year, like a minute fragment of Cleopatra came out, and somebody posted, and I said, that's that's the fragment of Cleopatra. Another so it made some news and everything like that. But it's like you just don't know what's out there. I still think that Hats Off survives. Laurel Hardy lost to Wheeler. I believe that film is out there somewhere.
Could be.
It's just that somebody needs to find it.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about silent film is things that, you go through your whole life thinking are lost. Boop, someday they turn up and, your jaw drops. I
Yeah.
love when that happens.
The one of my favorite comedians I like to showcase for the Slaps show is who I consider probably silent comedy's best kept secret, and that's Harry Sweet. And I've actually gotten some requests from fans that are saying, "How come that guy Harry Sweet you don't show a lot of?" I said, "Well, because most of his film work is lost. Most notably his silent films. I think his years at Century Universal, I think there's like three or four films that survive, and only one is an actual complete two reeler, and everything else is like a fragment here, fragment there. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of comedians I would love to screen, but
How about Al St. John?
oh, Al St. John is probably Al is like the face of the film, our film series. I mean, Al is my favorite comedian from the silent era,
Oh, me too.
and he's basically the most neglected, most underrated comedian ever
I
to
know.
grace the silver screen.
Yeah, when I first saw Fatty and Mabel Adrift, I just couldn't believe how funny
I think you
he
played for
was.
we screened that, and you did the score for that.
And I've been waiting. Yeah, I wanted to play for that. Yeah, that was one of the first ones I got to play for you. And I knew the film very well. I bought a copy of it in Union Square Park when I was very young.
Yeah,
The guy that used to sell DVDs in the park there, and I always was blown away by how funny Al St. John was when I first saw that. I was like, why does nobody talk about this guy? This guy's funnier than Keaton and Chaplin put together.
yeah. I mean, I think there was a story once where Al gave some advice to Buster when he said, when you're like flying from one end of the camera to the other, it's probably best that you put padding under your costume so that way you don't break any bones. And I believe that Buster learned a lot from both Roscoe and especially Al, because if you look at Al just in the 1910s alone, he was doing stuff that I've never seen any other comedian attempt to do, like dangle from a flagpole at street level, or get thrown from one end to the screen to the other. I mean, it's a shame that he's tragically underrated. He's basically my silent comedy hero.
Well, I think he kind of got typecast by the fuzzy stuff
Yeah,
later on, right? The Western stuff. I think probably a lot of boomers, saw so much of that on early TV. He probably got better known for that and not,
well, I
for what he
remember
should have been known
Steve.
for, the earlier stuff.
I remember Steve Massett was telling me one time. He said that in Germany, they with the westerns, that they edit the films out and they just keep the scenes where Al's in them. And
That's it.
I've actually met a few people that are fans of Al Fuzzy. But when I said, "Have you ever seen any of his solo work?" or with Buster and Roscoe, and they say, "Wait, he was a silent comedian." I'm like, "Yeah," and I never knew that. And much of his, again, we go back to the availability of films. Most of his films he made for Fox are no longer around. Matter of fact, I think MoMA has three of his Fox films, and it's a shame because one of them is called All Wet, which is like basically a partial remake of Fatty and Mabel Adrift. And Reel 2 basically has Al underwater fighting goofy looking sea creatures and everything like that. And it's a shame because that's a film that could really get some laughs with the modern day audience. So it's a shame that this stuff's not getting made available for people. But you'd be surprised on the on some of his short sets of I that are really really hilarious.
Yeah. Well, as I said, it's kind of refreshing to have a show where I don't have to ask a lot of questions. You guys can just go. I think you should have your own show.
Well, I'm gonna get to that in a little while. We also are in the documentary, the 2021 or 22 Cartoon Carnival
Oh,
documentary.
that's right. Yeah, and I know at least my scenes were shot at Standard Toycraft.
Yeah, so yeah, actually, our scenes were shot there. The film came about, and Tommy approached me if I wanted to be in the film because I did make a little name for myself back in 2004 when I discovered some lost Crazy Cat cartoons from the Winkler Studios.
Oh, I remember that. I think that might have been the first time I ever heard of you.
Yeah, and from the British Film Institute. And once I was able to get hold of them, I was interviewed by a Italian film scholar, and I went into the details and history about the character, and not a search really for the lost Winkler period from 1925 to 1929. Nobody really did a search on it. I mean, Margaret Winkler basically owned the Night Trade film stock, and in 1948 or 1949, she burned all the negatives.
That's so sad.
And I think she did a few of these with the Alice comedies. I'm not too sure. You might want to ask David Gerstein that one. But
it seems like more of those stayed around for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan of Crazy Cat, the comic strip, most notably. But, I'm happy to say that since I found those films, more of that period of films have been turning up. And those are probably among the best ones.
Oh, sure. And one thing I really like about those, you get to see the early work of Artie Davis, the great Art Davis.
Yeah, Art Davis, Bill Nolan.
Well, because there was a split there. The first 2 years of them or so were done by Bill Nolan.
Yeah.
Actually, in a little studio in his garage in Connecticut, believe it or not. He was running a studio out of his garage in Connecticut, and he had Grim Natwick and a bunch of assistants coming into work for him every day. And then Harrison and Gould kind of stole the contract from him, and they did the last 2 or 3 years of them, and those were the ones that Artie Davis was working on.
And Chris Freeling briefly worked at the Mint. The Mint studio was located at 220 West 42nd Street.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, you had the Van Buren Studios and you had the Fleischer Studios over.
And that was also that's also where Tin Pan Alley, as they call it, was at that time. All the little songwriting and publishing houses were all in that same area of the West 40s by 1910 or so. So that would have been, if I had a time machine, that's probably right where I would go, back to the West 40s in New York in the teens or 20s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I did want to go back a little bit because you were talking about your favorite silent comedians and all that. Where do you stand on Harry Langdon? There's an interesting subject.
I am a fan of Harry Langdon. I like Harry a lot, and I think you're going to have your haters there. I mean, I remember when the Stan and Ollie movie came out, biopic a few years ago. There was an actor that played Harry Langdon in the opening sequence. So Harry Langdon's son, his son's contacts me, said, Harry Langdon's in the film. I said, yeah. Who played him? I'm like, I don't know who played him. It's like I had to go on the movie database to find out, and I never heard of the guy. But I like Harry Langdon. He deserves to be up there with the greatest comedians of all, but sometimes he gets like a bad rap today.
Yeah. Yeah, I just always found him fascinating, but it took me repeated viewings to get used to him and understand what he was doing, and then once it clicked, it really clicked. And when I watch him now, I get it, but it took a while.
I might be the minority when I say this, but I actually enjoy those comedies he made for Hal Roach in 1929 and 1930. There's some of them really funny, and as it's been documented, his voice matches the character that he plays. He
Yes.
has a child like voice, and it just matches. I mean, he's a really talented guy. I've always been a fan of him. I first got introduced to Harry Langdon by watching the Robert Youngson films when I was a
Right.
kid, and it would be later until I would actually see some of these films in its entirety, and I just thought he was a really, really funny guy, very talented and everything like that. You know, but yeah, he's definitely. I think he's underrated, really.
Yeah, I've shown him in my classes, and sometimes people get it, and sometimes they don't. So it's like Charlie said, you're not going to please everybody.
Yeah,
Hmm.
true.
Yeah.
It's like when I screen Clark and McCullough, it's like usually it's a mixed bag because I think the younger people don't understand their humor, and the older crowd gets it. And I'm sure you've seen that with Wheeler and Woosley. I
Hmm.
love those.
Yeah, I mean they did show Clark and McCullough at Capitol Fest a couple years ago, but I don't remember them getting a lot of laughs. I'm sorry to disappoint you there.
No, that's okay. Well, you remember when Burt Wheeler's granddaughter went off on me because of that? Remember that on the Wheeler and Woosley page
Yeah.
where I just said that I forgot the name of the film that he appeared in. It was a solo one from 1931. You remember that one?
Too many cooks.
Huh?
Too many
Too many
cooks.
cooks. And I just said openly, I just said, well, I wish that Bert was given a better script and his granddaughter laced into me and ripped me not one, not two, but three new asses. I was just, and I'm trying to explain to her, it's like, please, you're taking it the wrong way. It's like, I'm a fan of your grandfather. And she didn't want to hear it. But that's another good underrated comedy team, Wheeler and Woosley. I'm a big fan of them.
Yeah, well, me too, as you know.
Have you seen Cleopatra?
Oh yeah, now that it's on YouTube, I've seen it. Yeah.
What's your take on it?
It's been a while since I watched it. It's interesting. It didn't really live up to my expectations, but I'm just happy to have more of them.
It's okay. You know what? It's not a great film, but it's one of the curiosity film
Yeah,
departments that I was in. Don't expect a whole lot in the film, but it is worth seeing. Doesn't matter
absolutely.
if you like the film or not, but it's worth seeing.
Yeah.
Then you can judge for yourself if it's a good or a bad film. But I mean, I do plan on screening it probably in the fall, maybe early next year. So, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much good stuff out there.
Yeah.
You know, just wait to be seen.
Well, do you have a favorite Wheeler and Woolsey film?
Uh, I'm going to say the Cuckoos.
Yeah, that's
That
fun.
half shot at sunrise.
Yeah, I wouldn't put those at the top of my list, but those are fun.
Oh,
Careful
no,
when you say that, son. Careful when you say that.
no, they're great now. And of course, I love Dorothy Lee is so adorable.
Oh yeah.
She's Judy. I mean, she really brings light to those films as well. I mean, she's just what else can I say about her?
Yeah, speaking of which, I actually got into them because of Thelma Todd, because I was doing some research on her, and that's how I found the two films that they made with her.
Well,
And
Hips Hips Hooray is my favorite with her.
yeah, that's a fun one. And well, I love Cockeyed Cavaliers too.
Yeah, that's good. I don't think I've only seen bits and pieces of So This Is Africa, but I'm sure if I do see the whole thing, I'm not going to like it because some of my friends said it's not that good.
Yeah, it's not their best. It's interesting, as you know, more because of the whole censorship thing than because of the film
Right.
itself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But what else? Like I said, you know me, Andrew. I'm a big Clark and McCullough fan.
Yeah.
I think Bobby Clark is an American genius of comedy. But yeah, I mean, those two comedy teams are up there in my books. I really do like them a lot.
What, you're not going to talk about Smith and Dale? What's the matter with you?
Oh my God, yeah, I like actually I enjoy Smith and Dale. I mean, I think they're buried not too far away from me. I live in Woodside, Queens, and right across like 2 blocks down, we got the
Cavalry.
Calvary Cemetery, where
Oh.
a lot of Hollywood stars are their final resting places there. Burt Wheeler is in the cemetery along with Nancy Carroll.
Hmm.
Who else? Texas Gunham. just to name a few. I mean, I actually kind of want to go there just to see what celebrities I can find there. But yeah, it's like a if you're a movie fan, you're in Queens. If you want to check out some of the final resting places of the stars, that's one good place to go to.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
that.
and especially they have what's called the cemetery belt too, and you just drive out to Glendale, which is only about a 20-30 minute drive from
Mhm.
one side. Oh my God, everybody's in out. Me and my wife have been, yeah, checking out a lot of those little. There are all these little Jewish cemeteries built in the 20s and 30s, and just a lot of old time uh, performers of all kinds are in there as well. It's really
Well, you got
quite
like Burt
interesting.
Williams is residing in the Bronx. John Bunny's in residing in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, New York City has such like we have like a lot of celebrities that are final resting place. Matter of fact, Lillian Gish is in a her final resting place is in a church
Hmm.
over on Park Avenue in like 52nd Street,
Oh wow.
along with
Is that
Bill.
Bobby Clark Avenue?
Huh?
Is that Bobby Clark Avenue?
Park Avenue.
Oh, I thought you said
Check that out
Clark.
too. I'm kind of a sucker for all those places.
Oh, anyway, where are we? Now we're now I'm lost.
Oh, I forgot. Next question.
Yeah, well, it's been almost an hour, I think, but I did also want to touch on the fact that Nelson, you're a musician, and I don't know much about that. You haven't talked about that on Facebook, so
Well, I was in the choir at an Episcopal church. I was a singer. I actually, believe it or not, I sung soprano. And living in a house full of women in the 70s, there was like old classic doo-wop music or disco. I hated that music.
hmm,
I listened to like hard rock, like classic rock, hard rock. And I guess you could say I'm a metalhead. And I
yeah,
played in bands before. And actually, we did a couple shows back in the early '90s in your neck of the woods.
hmm,
And one of the shows we headlined. No, we used to play heavy metal music. I played bass guitar and I did vocals. And once the band broke up in like 1997, I my interest just went right to film. And somebody once asked me, said, "Do you miss playing in front of an audience?" I was like, "Yeah." So not really, because I love playing in front of like strangers. I didn't really care for playing in front of friends because they could come and they see you play and they hate that type of music. Oh, I hate that music. It sucks. Oh, you were good. Oh, but do I miss sometimes? Yeah, I kind of do. But I'm happy with what I'm doing now.
yeah.
But maybe someday, I might pick up the guitar and do a little vocals because I have a lot of friends who are musicians and some of my friends also work in the music business as well. So you never know.
Yeah. So I guess I have to ask, what was the weirdest thing that happened during a show?
Well, we've got a lot of stories. There's
Oh
a
my
lot of a
God.
lot of characters come to the show. That's
Oh,
I
for
remember this one girl whose boyfriend was like about 6'6", and she wanted to meet me after the show, and he just stared at her, stared more at me, and I'm like, I am. Uh-uh. Some of our fans, another wild story was that some of our fans got upset with the venue because they overbooked too many bands, and we were, not for nothing, we were party animals back in those days, and they had to like sober us up with coffee, and the fans just got a little out of control. Not our fault, but yeah, we got banned from playing at this one club, which thank God they're not there anymore. I mean, yeah, I could go on and on, but this might be a family show, so I got to keep it a
well, I know
little
we've
bit.
had a lot of what I was referring to, a lot of funny incidents at the slapstick show over the years as well.
Yeah, refresh my. What was some of them? I remember.
Well, we just have a lot of there's a lot of characters we always like to see in the audience. People like our friend Joel, of course, or
Yes, Joe Schloss, the
of
great
course
Joe Schlossberg.
you always know when Bob Greenberg is in the audience too because he's got that wonderful laugh. Same
Well,
with Jonathan
I would
Smith.
also say the slapstick show is not complete without Bob Greenberg
Oh
being
yeah,
in attendance. He's a great guy, great friend, and along with Jonathan Smith too, which I'm sure you know,
oh yeah,
Andrew.
yeah, of course.
And like I said, I mean, the most rewarding thing about doing the slapstick show is that when people come up to you and they say, "Oh, I love the films," and that's my reward. I don't really look for a whole lot. And my advice to you, because I remember you were saying recently that you would like to do your own film series.
Yeah.
All you got to do is just work hard on it. And if you know the people that can get you started, then by all means go for it. Because I didn't think I was 11 years later. I didn't think for one second I'd be doing this for this long. And there was one point when I started going with the health struggles. I didn't think I was going to be able to continue it, but I'm still standing. The film series is still here. We're not going anywhere. And as long, like I said, our shows are not complete without Charlie.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a very special thing to be able to see these films and this goes for the Cartoon Carnival and for your series,
Yes.
Nelson. It's a very special thing to be able to see these films on film, on a big screen, the way they're meant to be seen, with a live audience reacting and commenting to
Yes.
everything. I would, when I started to come to these things, play for them, whatever, I was there either way. I would think, oh, I've seen that one before. Oh, I've seen this one before. I wouldn't be too excited about maybe certain films I'd seen before. And then it's funny. It's when you see them in a room with a live audience, it feels like seeing them for the first time, even if you're familiar with the film already, because
Yeah.
it's just such a different energy.
And what's rewarding for me and what I in the work that I've done, it's like I'm proud to say that I've been a contributor to like certain books on silent comedy. Helped out on a couple of DVD releases, most notably Alice Howe, Billy Bevan. I've also supplied films for the Silent Comedy Watch Party, most notably Wanda Wiley comedies,
Hmm.
which made me proud because, a lot of people discovered her and now they're big fans of hers.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah.
Sadly, I became over the years I became friends with her great niece Susan Forbes Wiley, and I always told her because she was such a big help to me on doing research about her great aunt. And I always told her, I said, if I ever do a screening devoted to Wanda, I want you to fly up to New York. And she said, I would definitely, now since she goes, I would be honored. And they, to the point where she made me an honorary adopted member of the family.
Hmm.
And the rest of the family that I had the opportunity to meet were nice. So when we did the Wanda Wiley, more of her films turned up, lo and behold, at the Library of Congress. I reached out to Susan. I didn't hear anything. And then I went on her Facebook page and I found out that she passed away shortly
Oh.
about a year before we did the screening. Because I know she was fallen ill, but I didn't think it was serious enough. But it really touched me. We dedicated the entire show to her. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
And I was, it was a little, I went up there and I had to kind of, keep a straight face because I wanted her to be. Like I said, if we ever get a show devoted to her, I want you up here. And she said yes. But then when I reached out to her that we're going to do it, it was really sad to hear that she passed away. But I'll be ever grateful to her family for the help and research they've done for me. You know, it's she's up there, proud of me, looking out for her great aunt. So
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry it didn't work out, but it's an interesting story, so thank you for sharing that.
I would probably say out of all the comedians or comedians that have been getting the most attention now, I would say in the men's side it would be Marcel Perez,
Hmm.
and on the female side it would be Wanda White. I mean, there's something about Wanda that the fans just instantly love about her.
Yeah, I actually just showed a thrilling romance in my class last night, so there you go.
We've screened Thrilling Romance on a couple of occasions, and the laughs that the film gets, especially when Charlie's playing the music for it, it just tears the roof off the building. I
I'll
mean,
bet.
the laughter is like wow, surreal.
Yeah, that's the thing is I've been teaching from my living room at home for 16 years, and I get maybe 8 people there or something, and I want to try to expand, try to find a theater somewhere, someplace where I can do more with more people. But I don't know. It's like you were saying earlier about how hard it is to find venues. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I hope I can expand somehow.
Well, like I said, I'm very fortunate that QED is still in operation. They're doing what they're doing because it's been a staple of Astoria, Queens for the longest time. And the fact that it was able to be saved and people can still go there to watch a comedy show, film screening. I mean, it's really good to know that. I mean, that's our home. That's our home away from home. And I'm happy that we're going to continue to do shows there and that the venue is not going anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
it's sticking around. It's a great venue. You know, Nelson. I think I won't mention specific names, but over the years, just to keep the series going, I know you've done shows at venues that I do believe are beneath you, and
Yeah.
QED is such a nice, it's what you deserve, a nice stage, a nice, sound, listening room, a comedy oriented audience. It's really nice, and I'm glad that it's going to be sticking around.
Well, the other thing is it's the venue that where we don't have to set things up. Everything is
Exactly,
there.
and
They got the
everything should be
keyboard.
like that. Yeah, they should all have a piano. They
I
should
mean,
all
I
have a sound system.
I won't get into details on the venue itself, but when we do I mean, there's some venues in Brooklyn that we basically the venue expects us to set everything up. Oh,
Right.
fold up, bring the chairs inside, fold them, open them up, then clean them up, sweep up, and then same thing at the end of the show. Well, take the chairs. I'm like, I don't go for that. That's why QED is my spot because we don't have to do any of that. Everything is there ready for us.
Right.
Perfect. You'd love the venue. If you ever came to New York, I'll take you
Yeah,
there. It's
Yeah, I don't
really
get
good.
to New York very often, but there are all these things
Great
happening there that I wish I could see.
news. New York has changed. I've been living in New York for like 43 years, and it's just like everywhere. Excuse me, everywhere you go is like scaffolding. A lot of historical places are no longer here.
sadly, yes. Well, I just feel like it used to be a lot easier to be an artist in New York. I'm from here myself. I've barely lived anywhere else, and it used to be around the time that Tommy and Nelson started their shows. I felt like it was an environment where if you wanted to do anything, artsy, live music, live screenings, anything like that, really all you needed was some kind of an apartment with or space with tolerant neighbors and just a couple people that were willing to pitch in, get a six pack and keep a little, get monitor tickets, set up some chairs, like you said. That's really all it took to host a live music performance or a
Mm-hmm.
screening, and there were a lot of what people would call DIY, do-it-yourself venues, and there's still a little bit of that, but it seems like they just keep making it harder and harder, unfortunately, in the city to for people to do things like that and be independent, put on shows independently.
Yeah. I mean, when you come to a slapstick show or a cartoon carnival, don't expect it to be like you're seeing a movie at the Graham's Chinese Theater. I mean, we're very small organization. Um, would I know Tommy's branched out with the cartoon carnival? I think he even did a show in your area, if I'm not
Yes, he
mistaken.
did. I saw him.
And we're looking to do that with the slapstick show. I mean, we were talking about maybe this was years ago. We were talking about doing a show in Fort Lee, New Jersey, at the new Barrymore Theater that just opened up a few years ago. But I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But if it did, that'd be nice. It's certainly on my list. But I would say now it's my list to try to take the slapstick show on the road, like in your area, like Massachusetts. But it could just comes down to finding a place,
Yeah.
venues, venue availability. I mean, like some of the movie palaces here in New York, they some of them do still do movie screenings. Some of them don't. Like the Lowe's Theater in Jersey City. That's a beautiful movie palace, and apparently they've been shut down since COVID because they were going to renovate the theater. And as of right now, they don't know what's going to happen at the theater when it's going to be renovated and that. But I mean, that's why we just do it like in small, like non-for-profit places or like comedy clubs. And like I said, I'm very lucky that QED has been our home for the past 6 years. And it's like I said, as long as they operate, that's where we'll be doing our shows.
Yeah. I was going to say the weird thing about when Tommy came up here was I remember he did his show right when I was recovering from eye surgery, so that was probably the worst possible time to be watching silent films, but that's how it worked out.
How was that show, by the way?
Huh?
How was that show?
Oh, it was a good show. I enjoyed it. I just couldn't see as well as I would have liked to if I hadn't had eye surgery.
Was there a good turnout?
Yeah, as I recall, it was a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to know that, a lot of people, I mean, Tommy's been, he's in the documentary, of course. He's been on Fox News with his collection in it. And, a lot of people know who he is. He's like
Yeah.
probably when it comes to silent animation, he's the tops. I mean, you want to know anything about silent cartoons, just go to Tommy.
Yep.
I mean, he's got like a massive collection of films. And like I said, he's got two shows coming up this Sunday in Bushwick, Brooklyn. It's going to be a gay theme called Gay Old Times. It's showing cartoons that feature gay stereotypes
Hmm.
in honor of Pride Month.
Right.
And he's got a couple Blu-rays coming out of the Inkwell,
Right.
which Charlie, you'll be hearing Charlie on
Yes.
that. And you'll be on the Aesop's Fables upcoming
Yeah,
Monday.
I've done a little bit for all of these. I know some of the Farm Royales have scored for Tom. I think are out on HBO already.
Yeah, and also you
And
got the David Buell
yeah,
stuff
that's
here
right. Oh, I had a
also.
lot of fun. I did a lot of those a year or two ago for Tom. Those are really great
Well,
shorts.
I
The way
sat in
that
with the recording sessions, and you guys were
Right. Well,
really nailed
I love the silent animated comedies that combine live action and animation. It's just it makes them
Hmm.
a lot more engaging,
what
I
I
think, and
what I
clever.
find fascinating about the Dinky Doodle shorts is a lot of people don't know this that Walter Lantz was approached by Max Sennett to be because to be a comedian. I mean,
Hmm.
if you look at the films, he's not a bad comedian, but he's not a good comedian either. But I guess he was enough that J.R. Bray actually had him star in a two-reel comedy that I think was shown on the Silent Comedy Watch Party.
Hmm.
And, you know, Sennett probably had a knack for finding talent. I guess he found Lance to be that talented to have him star in his own comedy shorts or have him as a supporting character. But he chose, still stay in animation. I think he did some animated sequences in some of the either Hal Roach or Sennett.
I
But
remembered Roach, but I think you could double check the
yeah,
Adamson book for that. But yeah, he was a very clever film. I know one of my favorite film stories, real quick, about the silent comedies that Lance did was the one The Hunt, which I was lucky enough to score for Tom. I know it's not out yet, but there's a scene in that where he's being chased by an animated bear, and
oh,
apparently at first they had Lance's brother in a bear fur playing a bear, and they went out to shoot somewhere in upstate New York, and they started hearing gunshots everywhere, and lo and behold, there were hunters out there in the woods, and they thought that Lance's brother was a real bear, and they were trying to shoot him. And Lance's brother freaked out and was like, nuts to this. I'm going back to the city. So they just said, okay, let's just do an animated bear instead. This is too dangerous.
all the fun Hollywood stories. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, it's been an hour or so, so I think we should wrap it up. But it
Well,
sounded like there were some things earlier that you were holding back on. So anything
can we
else you
do
want
some
to
shameless
talk?
plugs? Can we do some shameless plugs?
Sure.
Okay, like I said, my the next slapstick show is going to be on Saturday, July 12th at 5 p.m. at QED. It hasn't been made official yet on the website, so within a day or two, tickets will be on sale for that. It's going to be a Three Stooges festival we're going to be doing
Hmm.
called Saturday Night Stooges, perfectly fitting. And that's, like I said, that's Saturday, July 12th. And the Cartoon Carnival this Sunday at 389 Melrose Street. I'll be co-hosting the event along with Tommy. We're going to be doing two shows, 3 o'clock and repeat it again at 7. So if you check out the website with friends, just key in Cartoon Carnival, and tickets are on sale for that. Two shows. And what do you got lined up?
Well, if people want to see me perform, I'm lucky enough to do Tommy and Nelson's shows pretty often. Unfortunately, I'm not at the one this coming Sunday, but I think I'll be back at one soon. I perform regularly with my wife, who goes under the stage name Miss Maybell. We've been lucky enough to be on Andrew's show before. And we just did a big show sold out at Birdland this past Sunday.
Yes.
I know we're going to be back there soon, and we also have lots of little week by week shows in the New York City area. So I would say just follow Miss Maybell. That's MISSMAYBELL on Instagram or Facebook, and we tend to put and see where we're playing next.
All right.
Yep.
Great. Well, thank you guys. It's been fun, and I guess you guys
Yeah,
know that this is kind of a tough time for me right now, but it helps
Thank
to
you.
have some cool people to talk to. So I appreciate your time,
Well,
and thank you
Andrew,
for being here.
Without going into details, just remember that you have friends that are there to support you, like Charlie and myself and Tommy and everybody else, Catherine, Samantha, everybody. You name it, they're all behind your backs. Yeah, I know life's not easy, but you just got to keep your head up, and you will endure. You will be back to normal. And besides, I want to see you. happy-go-lucky when I see you in Capitol Fest in about 2 months.
Yeah, well, I'll see you there for sure.
Well, get ready, Rome, New York, because I'm back.
Yay!
But Andrew, thank you so much for
Yeah,
having
thank
us
you so
on.
much. Always great to do your show, Andrew.
It's been a great honor, and I'm happy that we were able to finally get an interview started. I appreciate it so much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All righty, take care.
And goodbye, Mr. and Mrs. America. Bye.
Bye.